Here we have the latest Archie facsimile edition, Betty number 8, which came out originally in 1993. This facsimile edition is the third facsimile edition that Archie Comics has released in recent years, actually just starting this year. It's an exact replica of the original comic that came out in 1993, and it costs $3.99. It does have that barcode added, and they don't have the original comic had like a UPC barcode right here, but it's not there for this version. Otherwise, though, it looks pretty much an exact, copy. This, like I said, is the third facsimile edition that they've done, and this came out today, November 27th, 2024, the day that I'm recording it. Although actually I got it in the mail a week or so ago, because it was part of my Archie Comics mail subscription. All the stories in here are written by Bob Bowling, probably my favorite Archie Comics creator. He has a very kind of sensitive style. It's somewhat overly sentimental. There's a lot of nature in his work, like you'll see wildlife and things like that. If you read an Archie story where he goes fishing or camping or something like that, a lot of times that's, a sort of trait of Bob Bowling's storytelling. He also has a lot of wordplay and things like that in here, in which may get a little annoying sometimes where, it's not a very naturalistic way of talking where, there's sort of these convoluted wordplay dialogue. But anyways, I found it a very enjoyable story. I think the reason they reprinted this is because of sort of the TNA aspect of the front cover, which is drawn by Dan DiCarlo and inked by Allison Flood. They did a Betty and Me issue, and also a issue of Veronica too, which were kind of done for the same reason, I think. But hopefully they'll start doing facsimile editions of other issues, for particularly older issues for that reason. In fact, while I'm talking about older things, I should probably give a little history lesson about what the Betty series was about. Of course, Betty and Veronica had their own series, being a spin-off of Archie Comics. But in 1965, Betty got her own, quote-unquote, solo series. It was called Betty and Me. The me in these things, I would think like Reggie and Me, Betty and Me. Usually I would think that the me is supposed to refer to Archie. And of course on Archie and Me, I think in those, it was usually Mr. Weatherby was sort of the me in those stories. But anyways, Betty and Me ran 200 issues from 1965 to 1992. And the very next month, with issue number 200, it was replaced on the schedule with this series that was just called Betty, with a new number 1. That started in 1992, and that ran almost 200 issues, same as Betty and Me. It ran 195 issues and was canceled in 2012, which is a bit unfortunate, that didn't run the whole 200, and that would have made it have lasted just as long as Betty and Me had. But anyways, so and we see Betty's Diary here. Now, Betty's Diary was its own comic as well. It started in like 1985 or something like that, and that ran about 40 issues and ended in 1991. So this story is written by Bob Bowling and drawn by Stan Goldberg and Henry Scarpelli. I think Henry Scarpelli inks all the stories in here. Anyways, Reggie is in this story, and it sort of presents Reggie in a way that is like, are they misjudging Reggie? Is he not a jerk? They basically are accusing him of stealing, and it turns out, he didn't steal. But then sort of the punchline of the story is that he leaves them with the bill, and so it's that a leopard can't change its spots. Then you have an ad here for one of the old subscription ads, which you can see you could get 12 issues of Archie or 12 issues of Betty and Veronica for only $12. So. And then there's like an editor's notebook talking about comics conventions and some more subscription stuff. And then I was surprised to see this. They had this sort of word find puzzle thing here. And it reminded me that Archie comics used to have these all the time. They'd have these puzzle pages in their comics. And, I haven't seen, the one shots that they've been releasing lately. I just reviewed one earlier today on my channel. They don't have puzzle pages anymore. I guess they assume, readers today aren't going to be drawing or, making marks in their comics. But back in the day, for years, for decades, comics publishers, especially Archie, would have these little puzzle pages in their comics. Anyway, so then you have another story here, written by Bob Bowling, drawn by Doug Crane, and inked by Henry Scarpelli. And this one, Reggie is really a jerk. He is, they're trying to rescue these animals, and he lets the animals out of the cage because he doesn't want Archie to be able to have earned money to be able to take Veronica out to a rock concert. Funny little bits here, but the funny thing is there's each of these stories is around 5 pages long, and they pack a lot of story into these little stories. I had mentioned in my previous video that I did earlier today about one of the new comics, the new one shots that they put out, that it was very slight. It was like not much of a story. It was just sort of very simple. But these Bob Bowling stories are just jam packed with story. There's a lot happening. It takes you a lot longer to get through one of these issues than one of the modern issues. And then you have this one where Betty is upset. This is kind of a strange story where she's upset that her photography, hobby is not working out too well, and she's, wanting to be able to sell her photos. Reggie wants her to take pictures of him so he can win this muscle-bound teen contest. But then it's like the pictures are going to be used to sell something where he's wearing a diaper and he's going to be humiliated. So Reggie tries to, get out of town. He goes to like a island or whatever to escape humanity and the humiliation. But anyways, they convince him that the ad isn't going to be seen and so forth. But again, he's portrayed in a kind of like very unsympathetic manner. Sometimes Reggie is just like a friend of Archie's, in some of these old stories. But here he's almost portrayed as like someone that they don't want around at all. He's like a real jerk. And then this is a very quintessential Bob Bowling story. Rudy Lepic inked this one. Penciled by Doug Crane and script by Bob Bowling. It kind of made me wonder if Bob Bowling maybe did thumbnail drawings for a lot of these stories, because they kind of have a Bob Bowling feel to them in their layouts and stuff too. But anyways, Betty and Veronica are accompanying Mr. Lodge to his camp area because he wants to inspect his property. And it turns out, and see all the stuff with the wildlife, very Bob Bowling. Well, there's a fire, a brief fire in the forest, and the animals are running away. So they kind of follow the animals, like they get on a moose to be able to cross the river. I mean, great little shot there. And this is even better. It was hard to get it in there. Oop. As they're watching the fire with the animals. But then the rain comes and puts out the fire. But the animals quickly make their escape, so they have to go on a log to get back to the other side of the river. And then even after all this, after the fire, the animals are going back to their old ways. They're not just, waiting together to see that the fire is not going to, burn down their homes. Now they're back to chasing each other again. And same with Betty and Veronica. They're back to arguing about stuff again. So it was kind of it's like I said, a very typical Bob Bowling story where he uses nature to talk about human nature. And, it's not like a laugh riot story. It's kind of a story that makes you think. And it's, like I said, very typical Bob Bowling. So there we are. That's the new facsimile edition, Betty number 8. And I enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I was actually, before I knew that Bob Bowling wrote all the stories in this issue. I was thinking, oh, is this, going to be something that I'm interested in? Because the only reason they're printing this is because of the cover. Um, but I thought it was worth reprinting in its own right because of the quality of the stories. I really enjoyed it. It kind of made me regret not buying Archie comics during the early '90s. I just kind of ignored them during that period. Actually, for most of the '90s, I don't think I started buying them again until the 2000s. Oh, with the exception of a Bob Bowling story, Archie and Friends number 30, I think came out in like 1998, and that was the first Archie comic I'd bought in the '90s. Because when I found out that he was doing the writing and the art on that issue, and then I gradually started buying them again. But anyways, so I enjoyed it. And if you happen to see it on the rack at your local comic shop, uh, should be worth picking up. Like I said, it's only $3.99, which is the price of a current comic book these days. Or you could subscribe like I do, and it's even cheaper to get them that way at archiecomics.com. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.